Hyperion, Book 2 by John Keats. Just at the selfsame beat of time's wide wings Hyperion slid into the rustled air, and Saturn gained with Thea that sad place where Cybele and the bruised titans mourned. It was a den where no insulting light could glimmer on their tears, where their own groans they felt, but heard not, for the solid roar of thunderous waterfalls and torrents hoarse, pouring a constant bulk, uncertain where. Crag jutting forth to crag, and rocks that seemed ever as if just rising from a sleep, forehead to forehead held their monstrous horns, and thus in thousand hugest phantasies made a fit roofing to this nest of woe. Instead of thrones, hard flint they sat upon, couches of rugged stone, and slaty ridge stubborned with iron. All were not assembled, some chained in torture, and some wandering. Cause, and hugest, and Briareus, Typhon, and Dolor, and Porphyrion, with many more, the brawniest in assault, were pent in regions of laborious breath, dungeoned in opaque element, to keep their clenched teeth still clenched, and all their limbs locked up like veins of metal, cramped and screwed, without a motion, save of their big hearts heaving in pain, and horribly convulsed with sanguine feverous boiling gurge of pulse. Mnemosyne was straying in the world. Far from her moon had Phoebe wandered, and many else were free to roam abroad, but for the main, here found they covert drear, scarce images of life, one here, one there, lay vast and edgeways, like a dismal cirque of druid stones, upon a forlorn moor, when the chill rain begins at shut of eve, in dull November, and their chancel vault, the heaven itself, is blinded throughout night. Each one kept shroud, nor to his neighbor gave or word, or look, or action. Of despair, Creus was one. His ponderous iron mace lay by him, and a shattered rib of rock told of his rage, ere he thus sank and pined. Iapetus another. In his grasp, a serpent's plashy neck, its barbed tongue squeezied from the gorge, and all its uncurled length dead, and because the creature could not spit its poison in the eyes of conquering Jove. Next Cottus. Prone he lay, chin uppermost, as though in pain, for still upon the flint he ground severe his skull, with open mouth and eyes at horrid working. Nearest him Asia, born of most enormous Caf, who cost her mother Tellus keener pangs, though feminine, than any of her sons. More thought than woe was in her dusky face, for she was prophesying of her glory, and in her wide imagination stood palm-shaded temples, and high rival fanes by Oxus or in Ganges' sacred isles. Even as hope upon her anchor leans, so leant she, not so fair, upon a tusk shed from the broadest of her elephants. Above her, on a crag's uneasy shelve, upon his elbow raced, all prostrate else, shadowed Enceladus, once tame and mild as grazing ox unworried in the meads, now tiger-passioned, lion-thoughted, wroth, he meditated, plotted, and even now was hurling mountains in that second war, not long delayed, that scarred the younger gods to hide themselves in forms of beast and bird. Not far hence Atlas, and beside him prone Phorcys, the sire of Gorgons, neighbored close Oceanus, and Tethys, in whose lap sobbed Clymene among her tangled hair. In midst of all lay Themis, at the feet of Ops the queen, all clouded round from sight, no shape distinguishable, more than when thick night confounds the pine tops with the clouds, and many else whose names may not be told. For when the Muses' wings are airward spread, who shall delay her flight? And she must chaunt of Saturn, and his guide, who now had climbed with damp and slippery footing from a depth more horrid still. Above a sombre cliff their heads appeared, and up their stature grew till on the level height their steps found ease. Then Thea spread abroad her trembling arms upon the precincts of this nest of pain, and sidelong fixed her eye on Saturn's face. There saw she direst strife, the supreme god at war with all the frailty of grief, of rage, of fear, anxiety, revenge, remorse, spleen, hope, but most of all despair. Against these plagues he strove in vain, for fate had poured a mortal oil upon his head, a disanointing poison, so that Thea, affrighted, kept her still, and let him pass first onwards in among the fallen tribe. As with us mortal men, the laden heart is persecuted more, and fevered more, when it is nighing to the mournful house where other hearts are sick of the same bruise. So Saturn, as he walked into the midst, felt faint, and would have sunk among the rest, but that he met Enceladus's eye, whose mightiness, and awe of him, at once came like an inspiration, and he shouted, "Titans, behold your god!" At which some groaned. Some started on their feet, some also shouted. Some wept, some wailed, all bowed with reverence, and Ops, uplifting her black folded veil, showed her pale cheeks and all her forehead wan, her eyebrows thin and jet, and hollow eyes. There is a roaring in the bleak grown pines when winter lifts his voice. There is a noise among immortals when a god gives sign, with hushing finger, how he means to load his tongue with the fill weight of utterless thought, with thunder, and with music, and with pomp. Such noise is like the roar of bleak grown pines, which, when it ceases in this mountained world, no other sound succeeds. But ceasing here, among these fallen, Saturn's voice therefrom grew up like organ, that begins anew its strain, when other harmonies, stopped short, leave the dinned air vibrating silverly. Thus grew it up, not in my own sad breast, which is its own great judge and searcher out, can I find reason why ye should be thus. Not in the legends of the first of days, studied from that old spirit-leaved book which starry Uranus with finger bright salved from the shores of darkness, when the waves low ebbed still hid it up in shallow gloom, and the which book ye know I ever kept for my firm-based footstool. Ah, infirm! Not there, nor in sign, symbol, or portent of element, earth, water, air, and fire, at war, at peace, or interquarreling one against one, or two, or three, or all each several one against the other three, as fire with air loud warring when rain floods drown both, and press them both against earth's face, where, finding sulphur, a quadruple wrath unhinges the poor world. Not in that strife, wherefrom I take strange lore, and read it deep, can I find reason why ye should be thus. No, nowhere can unriddle, though I search, and pore on nature's universal scroll even to swooning, why ye, divinities, the firstborn of all shapt and palpable gods, should cower beneath what, in comparison, is untremendous might. Yet ye are here, o'erwhelmed, and spurned, and battered, ye are here. O Titans, shall I say, arise? Ye groan. Shall I say, crouch? Ye groan. What can I then? O heaven wide! O unseen parent dear! What can I? Tell me, all ye brethren gods, how we can war, how engine our great wrath. O speak your counsel. Now, for Saturn's ear is all a-hungered. Thou, Oceanus, ponderest high and deep, and in thy face I see, astonied, that severe content which comes of thought and musing. Give us help. So ended Saturn, and the god of the sea, sophist and sage, from no Athenian grove, but cogitation in his watery shades, arose, with locks not oozy, and began, in murmurs, which his first endeavoring tongue caught infant-like from the far foamed sands. O ye, whom wrath consumes, who, passion stung, writhe at defeat, and nurse your agonies. Shut up your senses, stifle up your ears, my voice is not a bellows unto ire. Yet listen, ye who will, whilst I bring proof how ye, perforce, must be content to stoop. And in the proof much comfort will I give, if ye will take that comfort in its truth. We fall by course of nature's law, not force of thunder, or of Jove. Great Saturn, thou hast sifted well the atom universe. But for this reason, that thou art the king, and only blind from sheer supremacy, one avenue was shaded from thine eyes, through which I wandered to eternal truth. And first, as thou wast not the first of powers, so art thou not the last. It cannot be. Thou art not the beginning nor the end. From chaos and parental darkness came light, the first fruits of that intestine broil, that sullen ferment, which for wondrous ends was ripening in itself. The ripe hour came, and with it, light, and light, engendering upon its own producer, forthwith touched the whole enormous matter into life. Upon that very hour, our parentage, the heavens and the earth, were manifest. Then thou first-born, and we the giant race, found ourselves ruling new and beauteous realms. Now comes the pain of truth, to whom 'tis pain, O folly! For to bear all naked truths, and to envisage circumstance, all calm, that is the top of sovereignty. Mark well, as heaven and earth are fairer, fairer far than chaos and blank darkness, though once chiefs, and as we show beyond that heaven and earth in form and shape compact and beautiful, in will, in action free, companionship, and thousand other signs of purer life. So on our heels a fresh perfection treads, a power more strong in beauty, born of us and fated to excel us, as we pass in glory that old darkness, nor are we thereby more conquered, than by us the rule of shapeless chaos. Say, doth the dull soil quarrel with the proud forests it hath fed, and feedeth still, more comely than itself? Can it deny the chiefdom of green groves? Or shall the tree be envious of the dove because it cooth, and hath snowy wings to wander wherewithal and find its joys? We are such forest trees, and our fair boughs have bred forth, not pale solitary doves, but eagles golden feathered, who do tower above us in their beauty, and must reign in right thereof. For 'tis the eternal law that first in beauty should be first in might. Yea, by that law, another race may drive our conquerors to mourn as we do now. Have ye beheld the young god of the seas, my dispossessor? Have ye seen his face? Have ye beheld his chariot, foamed along by noble winged creatures he hath made? I saw him on the calmed waters scud, with such a glow of beauty in his eyes, that it enforked me to bid sad farewell to all my empire. Farewell sad I took, and hither came, to see how dolorous fate had wrought upon ye, and how I might best give consolation in this woe extreme. Receive the truth, and let it be your balm. Whether through past conviction, or disdain, they guarded silence, when Oceanus left murmuring, what deepest thought can tell? But so it was, none answered for a space, save one whom none regarded, Clymene. And yet she answered not, only complained, with hectic lips, and eyes up looking mild, thus wording timidly among the fierce, O Father, I am here the simplest voice, and all my knowledge is that joy is gone, and this thing woe crept in among our hearts, there to remain forever, as I fear. I would not bode of evil, if I thought so weak a creature could turn off the help which by just right should come of mighty gods. Yet let me tell my sorrow, let me tell of what I heard, and how it made me weep, and know that we had parted from all hope. I stood upon a shore, a pleasant shore, where a sweet clime was breathed from a land of fragrance, quietness, and trees, and flowers. Full of calm joy it was, as I of grief. Too full of joy and soft delicious warmth, so that I felt a movement in my heart to chide, and to reproach that solitude with songs of misery, music of our woes, and sat me down, and took a mouthed shell and murmured into it, and made melody O melody no more. For while I sang, and with poor skill let pass into the breeze the dull shell's echo, from a bowery strand just opposite, an island of the sea, there came enchantment with the shifting wind, that did both drown and keep alive my ears. I threw my shell away upon the sand, and a wave filled it, as my sense was filled with that new blissful golden melody. A living death was in each gush of sounds, each family of rapturous hurried notes, that fell, one after one, yet all at once, like pearl beads dropping sudden from their string, and then another strain, each like a dove leaving its olive perch, with music winged instead of silent plumes, to hover round my head, and make me sick of joy and grief at once. Grief overcame, and I was stopping up my frantic ears, when, past all hindrance of my trembling hands, a voice came sweeter, sweeter than all tune, and still it cried, Apollo. Young Apollo, the morning bright, Apollo, young Apollo. I fled, it followed me, and cried, Apollo. O Father and O brethren, had ye felt those pains of mine? O Saturn, hadst thou felt, ye would not call this too indulged tongue presumptuous, in thus venturing to be heard. So far her voice flowed on, like timorous brook that, lingering along a pebbled coast, doth fear to meet the sea. But see it met, and shuddered, for the overwhelming voice of huge Enceladus swallowed it in wrath. The ponderous syllables, like sullen waves in the half-glutted hollows of reef rocks, came booming thus, while still upon his arm he leaned, not rising, from supreme contempt. Or shall we listen to the over-wise, or to the over-foolish? Giant gods? Not thunderbolt on thunderbolt, till all that rebel Jove's whole armory were spent, not world on world upon these shoulders piled, could agonize me more than baby words in midst of this dethronement horrible. Speak, roar, shout, yell, ye sleepy Titans all, do ye forget the blows, the buffets vile? Are ye not smitten by a youngling arm? Dost thou forget, sham monarch of the waves, thy scalding in the seas? What? Have I roosed your spleens with so few simple words as these? O joy! For now I see ye are not lost. O joy! For now I see 1,000 eyes wide glaring for revenge. As this he said, he lifted up his stature vast, and stood, still without intermission speaking. Thus, now ye are flames, I'll tell you how to burn, and purge the ether of our enemies. How to feed fierce the crooked stings of fire, and singe away the swollen clouds of Jove, stifling that puny essence in its tent. O let him feel the evil he hath done, for though I scorn Oceanus's lore, much pain have I for more than loss of realms. The days of peace and slumbrous calm are fled, those days, all innocent of scathing war, when all the fair existences of heaven carne open-eyed to guess what we would speak. That was before our brows were taught to frown, before our lips knew else but solemn sounds. That was before we knew the winged thing, victory, might be lost, or might be won. And, be ye mindful that Hyperion, our brightest brother, still is undisgraced Hyperion, lo! His radiance is here. All eyes were on Enceladus's face, and they beheld, while still Hyperion's name flew from his lips up to the vaulted rocks, a pallid gleam across his features stern, not savage, for he saw full many a god wroth as himself. He looked upon them all, and in each face he saw a gleam of light, but splendider in Saturn's, whose hoar locks shone like the bubbling foam about a keel when the prow sweeps into a midnight cove. In pale and silver silence they remained, till suddenly a splendor, like the morn, pervaded all the beetling gloomy steeps, all the sad spaces of oblivion, and every gulf, and every chasm old, and every height, and every sullen depth, voiceless, or hoarse with loud tormented streams, and all the everlasting cataracts, and all the headlong torrents far and near, mantled before in darkness and huge shade, now saw the light and made it terrible. It was Hyperion. A granite peak his bright feet touched, and there he stayed to view the misery his brilliance had betrayed to the most hateful seeing of itself. Golden his hair of short Numidian curl, regal his shape majestic, a vast shade in midst of his own brightness, like the bulk of Memnon's image at the set of sun to one who travels from the dusking east. Sighs, too, as mournful as that Memnon's harp he uttered, while his hands contemplative he pressed together, and in silence stood. Despondence seized again the fallen gods at sight of the dejected king of day, and many hid their faces from the light. But fierce Enceladus sent forth his eyes among the brotherhood, and, at their glare, uprose Iapetus, and Creus too, and Phorcus, sea-born, and together strode to where he towered on his eminence. There those four shouted forth old Saturn's name. Hyperion from the peak loud answered, Saturn. Saturn sat near the mother of the gods, in whose face was no joy, though all the gods gave from their hollow throats the name of Saturn.